do their things, but I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 82 of the House of Commons of Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing orders. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of members. Now, of course, and I'm just going to go off the fly here. We're going to switch in. Right now, if you have anything online, just put up your hand online and I'll be sure that we check into you. I just want to make sure also to let Adrienne know that the sound check has been done, so all the translators have been done. And just make sure your microphone and your telephone and your earpiece and nothing is close together. Now, I'm going to pass this over to Michelle, and I'm going to make one comment before I do, because as you saw, this was scheduled to go in camera. We have been in camera for the last 6 weeks. So in order for me to make sure that we could have a motion go through for any member, if they have motions, let me know, because trying to go in and out of camera is very, very difficult. And so therefore, I always try to make sure that the work of the committee can get done first. So Michelle, I'll pass it over to you for your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to everybody, and thank you to FEWO committee for what we do. Listen, in the 2 years that I've been elected, I've had a lot of people come forward saying, you know, Canada's just not what it was, and a lot of it comes back down to public safety. This committee has done incredible work, I actually think. Human trafficking, domestic violence, mental health and youth. But there is an elephant in the room that is not being addressed, and I think that we as this committee have a duty as the Status of Women Committee to represent women. That is our job. That is what we are tasked to do. And there is no denying that we have seen an increase in crime in this country. People don't feel safe, and in particular, an attack against women. So I'm going to read into the record the motion that I put forward, but I'm putting it forward because it's becoming more and more a conversation every day, and people saying, "What are you doing, Michelle? What are you doing? How do you fix this country? How do you correct the road we're on?" And I'll read into the record what it is, but we have a responsibility here to do this. So, into the record, and I have it, I believe it's going to be circulated in both English and French. I think it was handed out on Friday when I put it forth. That pursuant to Standing Order 108, the committee conduct a study regarding the recent increase in violence against women, including but not limited to the notable increase of sexual violence and assaults against women on transit systems in Canada. That the committee hold no less than 8 meetings on the subject and report its findings to House. And that pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to this report. And I was going through all the articles and all the news that has happened because there is data, and I can put this forth to the committee if they want. Like, these are statistics, right? So you have 72% sexual assaults are up 72%. Women are the primary subject, okay? And these are there is charts and there is data, but it is the personal stories that we have to remember, because these are people at the end of it. And I want to read to you from, this is a Global News article published February 3rd, 2023, and it's about Julia Ratty. And she was assaulted on the TTC. And she said, this is from the article, it says, Ratty said she'd been living in Toronto and riding the TTC for over a decade. This incident left her in shock. I remember thinking at the time, I cannot believe this is happening to me. And I remember thinking after, as I'm going to the hospital, that victim you read about in the paper, suddenly there is a name, and it's my name. It was a very surreal experience. It was unprovoked and it was random. Nothing that I did merited what happened to me, but it did. It revealed other things that are at work within our society. And I think that's really powerful. But you can see, like, look at, it's article after article of random attacks of women and people riding transit, being pushed in front of transit. And so I think if we want to show Canadians that we are this incredible committee that is committed to protecting women, we have to do this study, and we have to do it soon. And I know there's lots on the table, but I would ask for your full support in doing this study, and I welcome any feedback there is.
Okay, looking at discussion, and I have Leah. Leah first. Go ahead, Leah.
Thank you, and thank you, Michelle, for presenting that motion. As I indicated to you just moments ago, I know that one of the motions that I have forward for study is to study the red dress alert. Like you, I'm concerned about safety, and the red dress alert that would alert the necessary authorities when a woman, girl, or diverse gendered person goes missing is a direct response to dealing with public safety and what that would look like. And although I'm not opposed, I want to be very clear, I'm not opposed to your study at all. I think we also need to, as a committee, get together to study solutions that we can put in place. I know it's in the budget, but it needs to also happen. There's one thing to mention it in the budget. There's another thing to make it happen, and I feel it's urgent because we know rates of violence, particularly for Indigenous women and girls and diverse gendered folks, are increasing. So I just want to put that there.
Thanks so much, Leah. Now back to
Chair.
Anna, and then Michelle, and then Adrian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the other thing that I'm seeing a lot of it up in our region is a lot of the students, female students at York University, are afraid when they have late classes to walk home. There was a situation a few years ago where 2 students were brutally raped and murdered. So they have security there. What is it doing? So I support your motion.
Thanks very much, Anna. And unfortunately, that's so true. That's such a terrible. Thanks for sharing. Back to Michelle, then Adrian. Oh, Anita. Okay, no problem. Go ahead, Michelle.
I can hang on because I've spoke already. Yeah, I'll wait till the end. It's fine.
Okay, not a problem. So I'll go back. So it's Michelle, Adrian, and then we'll go Sonia, and then we'll come back to you for rebuttal. Okay? No, Anita. Okay, so which one? Sonia. Then we'll go to Adrian. Then we'll come to Anita, and then we'll go back to Michelle. Go ahead, Sonia.
Madam Chair, this is so true. We did a great studies together. As you know, today we have a FENA, letter to approved, and every issue is very, very important for us. So I think we already went to the calendar. It's not like we cannot, go on study that. I think we need to first. Leah has an address, and then I know. Some members having already they have a motion on the table. I think term by term we will do every study. I think every study is very, very important. That's just want to say.
Thank you guys so much. You make it so easy to figure out where we're landing very, very quickly. Adrian, followed by Anita. Back to Michelle.
Merci. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think that our last studies were difficult. We studied intimate partner violence, and we met during the pandemic to see how the pandemic disproportionately impacted women. And for domestic violence and violence against women, we saw a shocking number of cases of femicides and too many cases of violence against women. We also wanted to follow the recommendations of the report Rebuilding Trust from Quebec. And we wanted governments to follow up with e-bracelets, for example. We wanted the federal government to examine possibilities that have been implemented in the provinces. There are cases of assault that we hear about in public places and on transportation. But in Quebec, I was often asked for us to reflect on the different types of violence. And there was a motion tabled on coercive control because sexual assault on public transit is horrible, but it's also horrible to see women who are being cajoled and who are unable to leave the cycle of domestic violence. There is so much work to do on cases of violence that are more discreet. I hope that the committee will want to focus on a wide variety of types of violence, and so we should examine coercive control and see how we can work on these different forms of violence that still to this day impact women.
Going to Anita and then Emanuela online.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm not speaking specifically on the motion, but more about how we're doing this and the process that we're using, because as committee members know, we have had several meetings in camera where we have sat down and some of us have put notice of motion. I mean, I have a notice of motion from well over a year ago to do a study about the mental health of immigrant women who have faced sexual violence and conflict. I know others have put what are really important motions to them. And I did that well before we even did the sports study. And what I'm finding is, as important and vitally important as Michelle's motion is, there's a fairness in this committee where we have sat down over 2 years now, where each one of us has things we want to discuss, and we've not done it with some emergency half-hour public session to make sure that everybody out there knows that we're doing it. And then if we don't, it feels a little bit like an ambush. That then it looks like, well, we don't think that's an important issue, but there's a lot of issues that have been raised. I mean, Sonia's health one and several others that I think are really important. And I don't want to get to a point, this is such a good committee, and it's such a consensus committee, and I don't want to get to a point where we're all about just getting a clip to put on social media to embarrass each other, when we're the one committee that has done more reports and more good work, and all of them by consensus. We've heard and given voice to more women in this country than any other committee, and I just don't think that this is a fair way to do things, because I don't want to say right now that I'm opposed to this, because everybody out there will think that I don't care about women on transit, which of course I do. But I also think that when people work really hard to put proposals forward, and then we say, okay, I'll put mine on the back burner because, say the sports study is very urgent right now, or there might be another urgent one. But then we sort of wait patiently and quietly to make sure we get our study that we care about. I just don't think this is a fair way to do things.
I take that with great respect. Thank you very much, and I note that very much. So we're going to pass on to Emmanuel. Okay, sorry, let me look at this. I have, because we kind of went out, there was Emanuela, I have Dominique, and then Michelle, but I had Michelle back and forth a few times in here, and you gave up. Okay, so there we go, Emanuela online.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to first thank Michelle for bringing this forward. I think it is a very important subject and one that definitely merits being studied and looked at by our committee. With that being said, other points that were raised were very important as well. I think, Leah's study and Anita's study and other studies that have been on the docket for a long time have kind of been sitting there and waiting. And I actually have one that I'd like to put forward as well after this, or bring it back, because Jenna is no longer on the committee and it was actually her health study. And I think it's really important, and I'd like to raise that as well. So there are many competing, very important issues that we should be looking at. And so I'm wondering if 8 meetings might be a little bit long if we want to really fit in as much as possible and help Canadian women and women in general living in Canada as much as possible. We may want to limit the number of meetings per study, perhaps maybe looking at who we actually want to hear from on this study and see how many meetings that could be possible in.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to pass it back to Dominique, and I'll just be 1 second.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's very difficult. I understand that all proposals and all of the ones that are waiting are very important. I don't think we need to act on a first come, first serve basis. To choose a motion because it was tabled before another, I don't think that's right. I think that's something to consider. What we have here is an emergency. As a woman, I am always hyper vigilant. Going out at night, using public infrastructure, women are always uncomfortable, always hyper vigilant, and it's not normal. Michelle showed it with the newspaper articles that she shared. We can see that it's something that we need to focus on. I think we would be able to focus on the daily lives of women and girls who go to school, who go to work, those who take public transportation, buses, metros, LRTs. This is such an important matter because we're talking about violence against women, and all of us are hypervigilant, and so I support Michelle Ferrer's motion.
So all in all, I think we already know where this is going to go, right? We know where this is going to go. It's basically in what order of precedence are we going to be doing this study, I think, as we're looking at this. I'm just going to take, there was 3 more hands that came up during that period of time. I want to take it to Michelle because she's given up her time multiple times. So we'll go Michelle, Mark, Leah, and then we'll, oh golly gee, don't look in the camera. And then we'll figure this all out, okay? So.
Thanks for the discussion, and thanks, Chair. Listen, I hear all of you, and I think urgency, and we always have this problem in this committee, okay? There's a million fires to put out. How do you decide which one to put out first? And why now, to Anita's question, is because people are messaging me. And if they're not messaging you, I don't know if we're just getting different emails. Public safety is in massive chaos in this country. And to Dominique's point, that is what you can't just say, oh, okay, this motion was in first. We are legislators in this House. Like, we have to prioritize what fire to put out first, and we are the status of women. And if women are being assaulted 72% more, and they're the primary subject, that's an emergency. To Leah's point, who I work very well with, and Leah, your red dress alert is critical, and you have our support on that. And murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls is a crisis, but it's already in the budget. We don't need a study on that. We have your. If I'm saying I would back it up in another way to say, how do we put this in without a study, because we already know it's critical. You already have our support. So that would be, maybe procedurally I'm being wrong, but let's do that. Do we have to sign a letter? What do we have to do? Let's put in a red dress alert. It's easy, right? It's like let's do that. But this is a study of legislation, of policy, of crime, of chaos, of public safety in our country. So I think it's a why now. And to Andrianne's point, who's very passionate and great at this, because coercive control is a horrible, awful issue. And we have dealt with such emotionally exhausting studies in status of women. And those are deeply systemic, awful problems that we are going to have to solve as a country, as a culture. But when we look at legislation and we look at more violations, yet less people charged, we can fix that in Parliament. That is something we can actively, strategically do to fix public safety for people, for our daughters, for women in this country. So that would be my plea to you, to put this in terms of a priority. But I do appreciate and respect all of your comments. And I think, Anita, I am not trying to kibosh this committee. This isn't about a social media clip. This is about people writing to me. And I see you shaking your head, and that's kind of disrespectful, if I'm going to be honest. Because if they're not writing to you, I don't know. That these are the emails we get. These are the stats. These are the data. And I am appealing to you guys to listen to that. And I appreciate the time, and I appreciate what we've built in this committee, and I definitely want to keep fighting for women. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I know personally I've got Marky Marks coming up next. We are all trying to work to make sure that we're doing the best, because I think at all of the time, even Ickwinder coming for your first time to be here, we want to make sure that we're working to make sure that women are having the best lives possible. So we're going to go to Mark, Leah, Anita, Sonia.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Non, clairement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Michelle, for this motion. It is a problem. We all agree with that. I think that it's clear. There are many different crises. We did the sports study, and we were able to add that to the calendar because it was urgent. And for the process, and I'll come back to Anita's point, I worked with the Indigenous Caucus, and when we're talking about Indigenous women, the situation is horrible in Winnipeg and elsewhere. It's a crisis throughout Canada, and coercive control is also a problem. I would like to ask the committee if we could take a bit of a step back, because in other committees, the chairs and vice chairs and the subcommittee can look at priority studies We will vote on today's motion, but there's other motions that we would like to vote on as well. So I understand Michelle's point, but if we vote for or against today, it's not because we're against, it's because there are other motions that we would like to look at. So if we could set aside the debate, adjourn the debate for now, and see how we could get together and look at all of the motions, look at Leah's motion, Andréane's motion. There are a lot of motions on the table here that are all very important. And so that's why I'm asking if we could adjourn the debate and look at all of these motions as a whole, because they are all priority motions.
Motion to move to adjourn the debate. Is that what you want to do right now? Okay. So we will take... That's fine. It's non-negotiable when we get into adjourning debate. It's non-negotiable, non-debatable. That's what I say to my kids, at least. So it's a recorded vote quickly. So those in favor to...
Right.
We're in a dilatory motion, so we have to vote to adjourn. No, we can't, because it's adjourning the debate.
Which are critical on record.
Okay, then I'll...
Can you pull? We have to vote on it.
Then I'll remove it then, if that's...
No, that's... No? Can he vote? I'm happy to do whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if the clerk can.
Can we get what?
The less.
Are you moving the motion, sir?
Okay, no, I'm not moving it then.
Okay. Thank you. Let's just continue with discussion.
Well, yeah.
And then we'll get on to the...
Okay.
When we need you to do that, I'll give you the thumbs up, okay? So Leah, Anita, Sonia. Oh, and Anna. Anita, you're off the list then, okay? So, Leah, you had a comment. Sonia.
I apologize for not adjourning, but I do have to address the red dress alert. It is not easy. It is in the budget, but as we see with other budgets, it's not always spent. We need to decide as a community and different levels of jurisdiction how this is going to roll out. This cannot stay on the budget. This is a crisis. The Prime Minister acknowledged it as an ongoing genocide. This is a real solution that can save lives. It can happen shortly, but we need a study. I totally do not oppose your study. We've had lots of studies on violence, but this is an opportunity for us to address it, to deal with this hands-on, and then move on. Like in my riding of Winnipeg Centre, this is costing lives. We lose kids every single day, young kids, especially in child welfare. I really support what you're doing, but I also support active solutions. And I know you're talking about constituents, but also, people knowing that this committee not only studies, but we come up with actions that are implemented to save lives. And I think it would also help with what you're talking about on transit, where a lot of young girls are sex trafficked. There's been reports of it, that they could then call a red dress alert. We have support on this committee. We have support from the government to implement it. We have support across party lines. We just need to implement it like we do in our committee. Sorry, Mark, I didn't adjourn, but I can call, if you want, I can call for adjournment. I just had to respond to that.
A few more people to
Okay,
listen,
thanks.
if that's okay, unless, now you're asking, can I call for an adjournment now? Okay, so, Sonia.
First and then after that.
Okay.
Écoutez, Madame la Présidente,
Madam Chair, what's happening to these women is horrible. And I think that it's not a matter of first come, first served. There are some emergencies, and we saw that with Sports Canada. We moved our schedule around in order to focus on women and girls in sports. I brought up coercive control to show that there are other studies, and it's not because I'm against what was proposed. Perhaps we could reduce the number of meetings, perhaps have 6 instead of 8. So it is an emergency, but we have 6 meetings, and then we can move on to another urgent study, because there are many issues that are concerning to women. So perhaps that was a compromise that I wanted to propose to the committee, limiting the number of meetings.
Sitting there talking to my vice chairs there for a second. Okay, so I've got a few more people on the list here. I'm just going to wrap it up because it's very simple to me. I don't see a single person on this committee that is saying that we should not be doing this. So right now, we are the status of women where we work really hard and we get things done because we're women plus Mark and Ickwinder today. So I think what we really need to do is decide what direction we're going. We can adjourn the debate. All that means is we adjourn the debate. Pardon?
Madame la Présidente, j'ai aussi fait une proposition de...
Madam Chair, I had also proposed an amendment because perhaps we could factor that into our discussions.
What's that? Reduce the number of meetings? Okay. Not a problem. What I would like to do, because I know that, to be honest, reduction of the numbers is one thing Emanuela also brought up, to be honest. I think that there are things. I don't know if everybody's ready to accept this as is, because I think there's a few more things. I'm hearing everybody talk about what they want this to look like. I've heard coercive control. I understand all of these different things, but at the end of the day, we can adjourn the debate and go and bring it back up, or we can vote on this, but make sure it's amended to be in line with what we want, which for a lot of us, because I think we really think through these things, that might not be also the case. But I understand the order of precedence. I know that there is a lot, and that is the one thing we've always worked on collaboratively, what's next. And in that case, this would be a what's next decided by the majority of the committee. And I think it is up to the committee how we want to proceed. Okay? So I'm just kind of giving it out there. Like, I think we have to have that discussion on, we know where this is going. Who wants to end it? So, Sonia, Adrienne, you have your amendment that is asking for a few less. I'm looking at some people where we're recognizing, so if we do the debate on the amendment right now, that's where we're getting into. But the only thing is this what exactly we want?
Yes.
6 meetings.
Good. 6 meetings.
6 meetings?
This is her amendment?
Yeah. Adrienne? Vous proposez 6?
You're proposing 6 meetings, correct?
Là, j'entends...
Yes, but you were about to vote. Are we voting on the original? If we're voting on the original proposal, I would propose that amendment. But if we want to have more time, we were going to vote on 8 meetings, so I wanted to have an alternative here so we can take some time to talk about it if needed.
Any comments on anything? You go ahead, Michelle.
I support that.
6 meetings. Okay. So right now, what we'd be doing is, and if we want to go do this, we can make it simple. The reduction would be the same motion with the exception of 6 meetings. So the amendment to the motion would be for 6 meetings rather than 8. Go ahead, Leah.
I'm wondering if, like, I know I have a bias, like, you know, people, like, women are literally dying in my community on a regular. And, like, we have an opportunity to save lives. So my head is focused on that red dress alert that I know we can get in place that will actually not be a study, but will actually save lives. I need some time to think about this. Like, because now we're looking at another study. We've had 8 studies go through in this committee. We're rock stars on this committee. We are the best committee, but, like, we have an opportunity to produce a tangible outcome. It's a really hard decision for me to make today. I'm wondering if we can adjourn so I can thoughtfully think through my own bias about my study, because I feel like I can't be thoughtful right now, and all of it's serious. Any violence is serious, and I don't want to minimize anything. So I'll leave it on the table. Thanks.
Is that a request? Okay, LaRoche?
Yes, we're discussing this
Okay.
amendment right now.
So we're discussing the amendment, but there was
So-
a question to adjourn on this debate as well, that she would need some more time.
If the committee decides to adjourn, it's adjourned on the whole motion.
Okay. I'm in a pickle because I'm trying to figure out exactly where we're going to go on this one. Yeah. Are you closing to adjourn the debate?
Yeah, I'm
We're asking
putting
to
on the
adjourn.
floor to adjourn the debate. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. So, recorded vote.
Okay, to adjourn the debate, Madame Lambropoulos,
I support.
Monsieur Serré,
Oui.
Madame Sidou,
Yes.
Mr. Gahir,
In favor?
Madame Van den Belt,
Yes.
Madame Ferrari, Madame Roberts,
No.
Madame Vien,
No.
Madame Larouche,
Non.
Madame Gazin,
Yes.
Okay. Defeated. So the motion to adjourn has been approved, so we will be moving on. Now, there's going to be a couple things that we need to, so the debate is adjourned for right now, but there's a couple things that we need to move on before we go in camera. Go ahead, Mark. Question?
Just quickly, I just wanted to see your comments, Chair, about having the subcommittee look at the 12 or 13 or 14 motions that we already have on the table. If there's a way the subcommittee could help feed that
Discuss.
the study of
Absolutely.
priorities.
Absolutely, and I'll work with the clerk and get this done. Our clerk is away, unfortunately, for a few days. So, actually, so let me go back to this. Just to give you the schedule of where we're going on this. On Thursday, we'll be coming back to the human trafficking study, so everybody will have that. We've got the recommendations that will be coming out and that have been compiled. And then again, on Monday, we'll be back to the human trafficking study. Will we be expecting V2 at that time, or probably not? Not V2, so recommendations. And then on next Thursday, we'll be starting our economic study on women. And so just make sure you have all of that in. We're now going to suspend for a few minutes so that we can go in camera. you.